What's up, guys? Tambo here with your weekly core report. It's a big week for Run Pure members across both NBA and NFL. Let's get into the winners. In the NBA streets, Hole 800 turned $12 into 4K. C. Corms turned $76 into 4K as well. Leroy hit for $4,600, while Y Guy 223 shipped for $12,000. Our guy AP joined in the fun, hitting for $8,000. Turning to NFL, it was another great week for us, especially when it came to Showdown. I parlayed my appearance on our premium Thursday night Print Factory show into 61K, featuring a lineup with Dallas Goedert in the captain spot. RPS coordinators were all over the Goedert captain play, appearing not only in my premium attack plan, but Mangone pushed it as well, helping Nadesify ship for over 67K, while Pete Vegas hit for $7,200 over on FanDuel. But the biggest hit came on Monday Night Showdown, where RPS content was all over Kenyon Drake in the captain spot. Captain Drake was pushed on our free Showdown show by special guest Chris Randone, in addition to our Talking Touchdown show with Spread, Tyler, and Title, where Tyler called his shot, nailing the Drake call ahead of shipping $29,000 for himself.
75% of carries, like he's going to be unowned, like low owned because of his price. He's got to be even more low owned as a captain because his price jumps even more. If he scores 2 touchdowns in this one, you could be golden. Guys,
if you have not subscribed to our free YouTube channel, take a second right now and get it done. Racer 1A joined in with a 10K hit from Showdown. Kanoski 69 hit for 22K as well. Locks rode Drake Captain to a 30K score to continue his heater, while I shipped 2 more King of the Beach seats. But the biggest win was by Run Pure member Homebrew, who hit the perfect unique lineup, solo shipping for a monster $500,000. He joined our NFL First Look show to talk about his big night.
Randone just mentioned at the end of the show, the very end, it was the last lineup I made. It was the end of the show, and he said Kenyon Drake captain, and I was like, well, I don't have one of those. Let me make one of those.
Congrats again to all our members. If you want to be featured in the core report, drop your winning lineup in the Members Never Win channel in our premium Discord. If you're not a member, join now. You won't find a better value with all sports included for one low price. And while you're watching, hit that like button right now. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Until next time, let's keep running pure.
What's up, everybody? Here I'm here with my guy Simon. Here we're gonna break down this Tampa Bay versus Seattle over the Seas game. It's gonna be playing at, I believe, 8:30 Central or 8:30 Eastern, 9:30 Eastern. So this game is gonna be on the way early as we get our morning shows going down. We're gonna break this game down for the showdown aspect here. Try and find some winners for us as we begin our Sunday sweats there. So Simon, how's it going for you?
Good, man. Doing well. Been doing a lot of research on this game. Been focused on this more than the main slate, actually, because I knew that we wanted to do a show on it, and looking forward to breaking it down. And I think we can find some edges for people that'll help them out with the showdown. Like, we got one big contest over on DK. I think it's 100K to first. That's a $15 entry, and then they have like a smaller, like $3.20 max, but there's some decent sized contests out there, so worth investing in some showdown lineups for this game.
Yeah, for sure. We've got a close spread here too. Seattle's 2.5-point favorite. The over/under is going to be 44.5 for this game. So I think there's some interesting things here to look at. We got some interesting pricing here. I think there's some really good fades that people are going to be looking to just kind of jam in. I've kind of been off of the Tampa Bay passing aspect as a whole on the main slates. They've been getting some run, like Chris Godwin. Some people are playing some Brady doubles and stacks early in the season. Kind of been off of that. I kind of think Brady's washed, and it's kind of turned into that. They did finally get a win last week, snapping a 3-game losing streak. So that's kind of piquing my interest here. I think I like Seattle in this game. It's interesting with the point spread here in this game. Seattle's actually getting 2.5. Isn't that correct? They have an implied team total of 21 versus Tampa Bay's 23.5. What's sticking out to you in this game early on, Simon?
Yeah, last I checked, it was a 2.5 spread, and I'm with you. I'm on Seattle for this. It made no sense to me when I first looked at it, and I saw that Tampa Bay was the favorite. But I think that might have to do with some of the improvements on their defense. They've gotten some of their DBs back, and their run defense is healthy. So I think their defense, just as a whole, is a lot healthier than it's been in the past few weeks. So I think that's helping them out as the favorite. But I still think that the momentum and all the, just the general way that these teams have been playing lately, I just like Seattle better than Tampa Bay in general.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at the quarterbacks here, we can kind of break this down a little bit. I guess we can kind of hit on our best ball a little bit. Me and Simon did a bunch of shows heading into the best ball season. It was turning out pretty good for us here early on, but the injuries at least have killed my teams here as of late. Sounds like, Simon, you had a couple teams inside the top 500, I believe, overall. So, I mean, you were just absolutely crushing it out of the gates. Sounds like you may have had some injury troubles here as well over the last couple of weeks. You want to hit on a little bit on how your best ball teams are heading into mid-season here?
Yeah, it was looking good for a while there. I had a couple teams in, like Snyder mentioned, in that top 500 for the Underdog Best Ball Mania contest, and injuries just overcame everything. All of my top-owned guys are basically on the injury list right now. High ankle sprains left and right. I lost Breece Hall. I lost a few guys to season-ending injuries and stuff like that. My quarterbacks have been a mess with all my backup quarterbacks are basically either getting benched. We had like Winston getting benched and slash hurt. We had who else have we had? We've had a bunch of them. Like Tua with the concussion stuff, getting hurt. Like that didn't help me. Jonathan
Taylor's been hurt a lot.
Yeah, I didn't like. We were.
I was off of him
CMC.
though. Yeah, we were kind of on the fade spot of that, so that was good. Yeah, CMC was kind of down for a few weeks, so it really hurt me. But I'm really looking forward to him coming back with the 49ers here in the second half. Hopefully, that can revive a lot of my teams. As I think I've only got about 10% of my teams advancing at the moment, but hopefully he can revive a lot of those teams, as I was way overweight on him. Yeah,
and I had Marquise Brown. He was my highest owned wide receiver, and he was off to a great start, and then he's out for like a couple more weeks now at this point. I think Mike Williams should be back pretty soon. He was another heavily exposed guy I had, and Jamar Chase was my big stand in that first round. I was drafting a ton of Jamar Chase, and obviously, of course, he goes out with the hip injury, and we don't know when he's coming back, but hopefully he's back soon and puts us back on a winning track. But it's been a disaster with these injuries. But I've had a couple teams that kind of escaped those injuries for the most part. One team in the top 500 had Breece Hall and I think Marquise Brown on it, and it was still in the top 500 somehow. So got some good teams built, but we'll see how that works out. But we'll be doing more best ball shows when it comes closer to the playoffs. But one thing that I think that best ball helped us out the most with, Snyder's, is being on top of a lot of these players before anybody else. And one of those players, Greg Dulcich, a few weeks ago, when he returned and was off the injury report, we kind of had an inclination that when he was going to come back, that he was going to play a major role in that offense, just based on what the preseason reports were and how we were drafting him. I was more on Albert O, but I knew as soon as that game where Dulcich came back and they deactivated Albert O for it, I knew to put Dulcich in all my lineups basically at that point, just because what we'd heard as far as buzz in the preseason on Dulcich, and then having an opportunity to get him in our lineups. And I think one of those players actually kind of fits in today too, because a guy that we were fading, Lenny Fournette all preseason. Like, that was the easiest fade that you could make. People were drafting that dude in the second, third round, and we were just like completely off of him. A lot of guys were recommending drafting him like high in the second round, in the third round or whatever. We were completely off that play, opting more for Rachaad White. And I think this is the week that we're going to see a lot more involvement with Rachaad White in this offense, and I think that's a play that can help us get off of Lenny Fournette, who's been absolutely horrible this season as we projected. Oh, you're on mute, Snyder.
Yeah, that's a great transition into this game as well, as we've got Tampa Bay playing here, Fournette and Rachaad White. Rachaad White's price at $5K versus Fournette at $7,800. So that'd be interesting as we dive into the running backs there. But let's hit on these quarterbacks here first. I mean, I think I'm going to be a full fade on Brady here. I think he's washed in 10K. A 10K price tag is just way too much for him. Looking at his recent box scores, he's only scored over 15 points once in the last 4 games. So I think that's going to be a clear fade for me with that price tag heading into this game. So I'm going to be off Brady. I do have some interest in Geno Smith at 10.2. What's your interest here in these quarterbacks for this game?
I think that Brady is a disaster right now, not only from his playing, but also his personal life. He's got a lot of stuff going on with the, the FTX crypto exchange that he was heavily invested in, just completely crashed and went bankrupt. We've had his divorce and everything, and he just hasn't been, Brady's always been that guy who's always focused, and I think his focus is gone right now, understandably with all this stuff going on outside of football. And on top of that, his offensive line has been decimated. So he just has everything going against him, and it's been affecting his play, and it's been affecting the team in general. And Snyder mentioned only 4 games, like all 4 games that he's played recently is under 15 points, but he's also only scored over 23 times during the entire season. So Brady has been a mess, and I don't think that things are going to improve this week. I think it's going to be more of the same with Brady. Geno, I'm a little bit more interested in. It sounds funny to say that we're more interested in Geno than Tom Brady, but that's where we're at in 2022. But Geno, even I don't see him having like a huge game, but I see him having enough to make it onto the optimal with his performance. I'm not really leaning on him as any type of captain interest, but I do like him more in the flex. What are you thinking there, Snyder? Oh, mute.
Yeah, I'm right there with you again. I'm probably going to be on Geno more so in the flex, probably off him in the captain, off both of these quarterbacks. I'll be super underweight on Brady. I think I may just full fade Brady as well, though. But Geno, he's been active with the rush game too. So, I mean, he's had a few games with over 40 yards rushing. So if he gets 40 yards rushing in this game, that's an extra passing touchdown equivalent right there. That's 4 points. I mean, that could be huge on this slate, which I think we're going to be kind of starving for points here. I think it's going to be more so like we're going to need some raw points here in this game. So I'm going to be off of Geno at that price tag for the captain spot. I like some other guys a little better, a little cheaper to get in that captain spot to kind of get us a more of a raw points total heading into this. But I'm going to be in on Geno. I mean, this Tampa Bay passing attack has been gettable. They are getting some pieces back here this week, but I think like Tyler Lockett and some of those other guys here, as we'll get into when we hit that receiver position, I think they have some really good opportunities to bust out here in this game. It's kind of interesting to see how involved, how motivated Tampa Bay is going to be here coming over across the seas. Yeah, they did win last game, but their season is kind of in a down tailspin. But I think that's pretty much it for me here on this quarterback. Do you have any other last thoughts here for quarterback before we head into the running backs?
No. I think this is a type of slate where I don't want to play both quarterbacks for sure. Like I would probably make a rule to limit to one quarterback, but I'm more on that Brady fade with you, Snyder. I think if I'm going to play a quarterback, I'm going to play Geno. The only reason I would play Tom Brady is just like you're saying, like raw points. I think this is a slate where you can leave a ton of salary on the table. And I think that in a situation like that, you want to sprinkle in, like Brady just on the off chance that, he could get 10 points, but if you're leaving 5,000 on the table, like 10 points, that could make a huge difference. And if you can manage to get, Brady in your lineup and still leave salary on the table, then, I don't think that, it would make total sense to fade him. I would think I'd just sprinkle him in, but like I understand where you're coming from on a full fade on him.
Yeah, for sure. Hitting into this running back deal, we've got a big boy price tag on Kenneth Walker here. He has had a couple games, like big games, where he scored 30-plus points 2 of the last 3 games, but he's had some other games where he's kind of down too. Yeah, he is averaging over 20 carries a game in his last 4 games, but he had a 12-point performance there against the Giants and then 19 versus the Cardinals. Aside from those 2 30-point games, I mean, if we get 15, 17 points from Kenneth Walker here, I don't think that's enough to pay off the price tag, especially in the captain spot, but I think he's viable as a flex play. I'll probably have him some sprinkled in just because I need some points and stuff. But looking at this Tampa Bay running back situation, like you mentioned earlier, we've got Lenny Fournette at 7,800 here. Fournette has just been pretty much he's kind of getting phased out from a rushing aspect. Yeah, they had the 21 carries against Pittsburgh, but since then he's been under 10 carries in his last 3 games. He's averaging under 3 yards per carry. So, I mean, that's just ultimate dust level there from Lenny. He has been incorporated some in the passing game. His last 3 games, 3 targets. And then last game, he had 7 targets in that game, 5 for 41. But when you're looking at his total points here, I mean, Lenny hasn't even, I think he's averaging like right around 10 or 11 points over his last 3 games. He had that one dud there against the Panthers where he only put up like 4 points. So I think the Lenny fade is easy for me at that price tag too, because I like a lot of those pass catchers underneath of him and even a couple of them above him there. And then you got Rachaad White there at 5K. I mean, he's seeing pretty much the same amount of carries as Leonard Fournette, and he's averaging more yards per carry, right around 4 yards per carry there. So I think he's an interesting tournament play there at 5K. I definitely think that puts him firmly in play there. What's your thoughts here on the running back situation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think that the Tampa Bay Bucks play a lot better. And I saw a nugget from Warren Sharp on one of his appearances where he was talking about the impact of Akeem Hicks on the Tampa Bay run defense. And they go from allowing 1.4 yards before contact without Akeem Hicks down to only 0.5 yards before contact when Akeem Hicks is playing. And that's significant. That's like the best in the league by a large margin. So that's going to be significant that Akeem Hicks is playing this week. I think that's going to affect Kenneth Walker. You put a rookie running back against a top 2, top 5 run defense, and I think it's going to impact him, especially that he's been playing well recently. And everybody's going to be on him, but I think that you can even get away with fading him, at least in the captain. You may be able to fade him in the flex too. The only thing I'm not going to do a full fade is just based on raw points. If he ends up getting, like 11 points, it could be like well below his projection, but it could be enough to find him in the optimal, especially with the value that's on this slate this week. But as far as Lenny, I think he's the type of guy that you could build a lineup where Leonard Fournette ends up in that lineup, and then you just swap him out for Rachaad White and leave that salary on the table. You could do all sorts of stuff like that to kind of get creative and try to get different when you're building your lineups, because I believe that Rachaad White kind of takes over the backfield. If not this week, he's going to be doing it soon. If he doesn't do it this week, then it'll give Snyder and I an opportunity to put him in our DFS lineups on the main slate next week. But yeah, no, I think White is going to be having his coming out game sooner or later, and I think against Seattle, it's a pretty good matchup. Seattle's been allowing the 8th most DK points since week 3 to opposing run games. So if it's going to happen, like this is a good shot for it to happen, especially with Seattle's defense and the way that they've been playing against the pass recently. So it's a good opportunity for a Rachaad White game.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some stuff here. I think I found our gem that we're going to need to get us to the winner's circle here. I found a guy who's under 2K, Travis Homer. He's returned. He's had 2 games since returning. He was like a 20-snap guy early in the year. He's returned to play 14 snaps and then 21 snaps last week. Had 3 targets in the passing game last week. I could see him being a guy here catching. What if he catches 3 passes for 30 yards and somehow gets in the box here? I think him catching. He caught 1 for 21 in the first game back and 3 for 25 in his last game back, and still he got a couple carries in the rush game too. If he could get us like 12 to 15 at that 1,800 price tag, man, I think that's going to send us to the top of the leaderboards here. So I think Travis Homer is my favorite running back on this slate at 1,800. I think he could be used a little bit in the passing game and such, like he has been. So what's your thoughts on Travis Homer here for this game?
I don't mind it. Like when I was looking through the box scores and looking through like all the data and everything, I noticed him too. Like I did notice that Kenneth Walker, like last game he had 4 targets. He had 2 targets the week before that, and he had another game where he had like 3 targets. And Travis Homer, I guess he was out during those games. He came back in week 8, and Walker had 2 targets. And then Travis Homer played last week too. He had Walker had 4 targets, but Homer still had 3. So it seems like they're kind of splitting pass game role in the offense right now. So I don't hate it. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Homer, was able to pull something off. Like the way I'm building my lineups this week, I don't think I need that value. I'd rather get the value from Otten or Rachaad White, or just leaving salary on the table. But yeah, I mean, I don't hate the Travis Homer based on the passing work that he's getting and the thinking. I
think that's a way to kind of get us different too, because just looking at the salary here, I think a lot of people are going to be looking to save that $600 in his jam Cameron Braid as he's back this week at $1,200, and I think Homer, would it surprise you if Homer scored 12 points and outscored the majority of the players above him? I mean, I don't think that's something that would surprise me at all.
Yeah. The other thing, the other players that I'm looking at in that cheap range are the kickers too. Like if you look at the kickers' game logs, they've both scored 4, like double digits at least 4 times each this season so far. So like you could go double kicker in this too. This is what I'm talking about. There's so many value options where you can just leave a ton of money on the table, and you're not hurting yourself with raw points. Like there's just so many cheap options in this game that are better than the expensive options. So it's gonna be interesting. It's like you're looking for raw points, I feel, in this game, and I think it's gonna be. What do we think in the score is going to be, Snyder? Like 2017, 23-20, something around
there? Yeah, I think it's going to be somewhere around there. Yeah, like a 2023 type game, like 17-20, like you talked about. I don't think there's any way where this game just fully nukes. I think Tampa Bay is dust. I mean, I'd be surprised if they scored 17. I like the Seahawks in this game. I actually like teasing the Seahawks up in like one of those long teasers, like Big T talks about. You could get Seattle at plus 8.5. You cross those key numbers there. I really like Seattle in those type of betting scenarios. They're looking into the receivers now. You kind of mentioned a little bit about Tampa Bay having some defenders back this week in their secondary, but they still allow a lot of work over the middle there for like a guy like Tyler Lockett. I've been on Lockett quite a bit. I played him last week. I even played him in cash last week over Chris Godwin, who was in this game. Chris Godwin has been a very popular guy. Lockett's just been consistent, though. He's put up 15 points in a lot of games this year. Right there, 5 catches, 7 catches. He's had 5 catches in pretty much every game this year, at least 5 catches. So really like Tyler Lockett in this spot. He's $200 more than DK Metcalf as well. I feel a lot of people will just save the $200 and go to DK over him because DK is kind of more the flashy, big play guy, but interesting there. And then looking at Chris Godwin a little bit, he's got a super cheap price tag here, but I mean, he's been getting double-digit targets in every game this year, except the one, I think. The last 4 games, he's getting double-digit targets, but he hasn't done anything with them. I mean, he's yet to even score 15 points on this season, I think. I mean, it's just been total dust from him. 7 catches, 6 catches, 7 catches, 6 catches, 6 catches, 7 catches, and yeah, he is just not doing anything with them. He's like right around 10 yards a catch. So I think that's a interesting spot. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. What's your thoughts early on this wide receiver position? I'll kind of hit on that Tampa Bay defense, like you mentioned pre-show as well, if you want.
Yeah, like I'm with you on the wide receivers in this one. I think Lockett and Godwin are the guys that you want to focus on. I think Tampa's been able to kind of shut off to perimeter receivers, and they're a lot healthier this week than they have been in the previous weeks. But also, Seattle's defense has not been bad at shutting down perimeter wide receivers either. And I think there's an opportunity to shut down Mike Evans, although I will still have Mike Evans sprinkled in. But I think the better matchup goes to Godwin, and Godwin's getting a ton of that volume. And I think if the run game's going to continue to be ineffective and Brady's trying to get rid of the ball quick, Godwin's ADOT this year, I think, is like 5 yards. So he's definitely had a much lower ADOT, much lower upside, and obviously he's coming off the injury. I think people are just addicted to clicking on Godwin at this point, but I do like him better than Evans in this particular game. But if I notice that the ownership is going to be much higher on Godwin than Evans, then that kind of would lead me to lean more towards Evans, because I think the DB that's been kind of their shutdown DB in Seattle is a rookie. So I think that Evans can kind of exploit that. He's a very physical receiver, and you put a physical big receiver against a rookie, and even with Tom Brady being dusty, still Tom Brady throwing to him, then I think Evans has the potential to have a decent game if you want to kind of build that game script around him. My favorite captain, though, is Tyler Lockett by a long shot. I know he's going to get, well, from early indication, like I was seeing that he's kind of going to be below 10% ownership. So I think that's interesting. I think both of those Seattle receivers were under 10% ownership, and getting that from the SaberSim optimizer right now. I haven't seen any other projections for ownership come in yet, but if both those guys are going to be under 10%, I lean towards Lockett, and I would be overweight on Lockett at that ownership.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if we could get Tyler Lockett under 10% owned in the captain spot, that's definitely something I'm interested in. I think he'll be right around there too. I wouldn't be surprised. DK Metcalf too I'll play some of him. If I do play some Geno captains, I think it would be a Geno captain with Lockett, and then I think I'd put Homer in there, just kind of save a little bit of salary there. But I'm definitely with you there on the Lockett captain. Julio Jones, 6,200. I can't play him. I mean, I think he's pretty much dust there as well. Not too much else here. Scotty Miller did see 7 catches last week. That's interesting for Showdown there at 4,800. Not too much else for me here in this wide receiver range there. I do like Tyler Lockett quite a bit, though. I will be I might even lock him when it goes from captain to a flex spot. I think I'm going to be super overweight on Lockett here. In this tight end position here that we can hit on here next, I think a lot of people are going to jam Cameron Brayden there, like I mentioned earlier, $1,200 price tag, but I still like Cade Otton here. Like we talked pre-show, like you mentioned, and I'm right there with you. I think Cade Otton's shown enough that I think Brady's still going to go right back to him. He's catching pretty much every ball thrown at him this year. 5 catches, 68 yards and a touchdown last week. So I think Cade Otton is the kind of the leverage play that we need from Tampa Bay here. Is a lot of people just opt to go to that cheaper guy so they can load up more studs. So I'm right there with you with the Otton play as we get there before. And Noah Fant's kind of been a guy I've been on and off throughout the fantasy season, depending on where his price tag is. He had a good game last week, 5 catches for 96 yards. He's in play for me. Will Dustley, I may have him in the pool. Probably won't be too high on him, though. 3K is a little too much for him. I like Noah Fant a little better at the 4.6. But what's your thoughts here on the tight end position?
Yeah, before I get into tight end, just want to ask the audience to please hit the like button down below. And also, we have a red subscribe button on the bottom right corner on over by where Snyder is. If you click that, subscribe to our channel, you get all our great content, get alerts for it. And Sunday, we're going to have a ton of morning content for NFL. If you're unfamiliar with us, that, you know, we're one of the fastest growing DFS content sites in the industry, and our Sunday NFL shows have been crushing. So you definitely want to check those out. And we do showdown content a few times a week that you're also going to want to check out, like if you're more into showdown than the main slate stuff. So make sure to hit that like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. And as far as tight ends, I'm with you. Like, the tight ends in Seattle, they've been getting about 8 to 10 targets a game between the three of them. They got 3 tight ends. They got Noah Fant. They got Noah Fant. I always call him Font. They got Noah Fant. They got Parkinson. What is it, Colby Parkinson?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. And then they got
400.
Yeah, and then they got Dustley. So I think, as far as their tight ends, like, we make fun of Dissly, but the dude gets a bunch of targets, which is super frustrating if you drafted Noah Fant in the beginning of the season. But I like Fant the best in this game. I think that if they're distributing 10 targets, like in this game, knowing that the matchup against Tampa Bay is good for the tight ends, I could see Fant getting 6-7 targets in this game, and he has the capability to break a couple off. So Fant could end up being the slate breaker in this one, and then I could also see Dissly, scoring a random touchdown or something. I don't know if he'd be able to put up enough raw points to be in that optimal, and I don't think that you really need the value. But if I was playing for raw points, I think Noah Fant would be my favorite guy to target. And I do think that a tight end from either side is going to be in the optimal this week. It could be a tight end from Seattle and a tight end from Tampa Bay, or it could be like one tight end. But I'm going to try to get at least one tight end in my every one of my lineups that I build this week, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I think I don't think that Dissly will hit any of my builds that I put in Saber, just because I'll have a higher projection on like a Travis Homer or something. That's typically what I do for when I'm building out my 150 or whatever on Saber, is I'll just kind of manually update my projections, run the teams, and then do I think right now they even updated the projection deal where you can go to 99th percentile and all that stuff. But usually I'll go and sort it by projected points, so it gives me my top 150 raw points teams for that. So a guy like Will Dissly just won't hit my teams. Cameron Brate probably won't hit my teams because I'll have a higher projection on Homer and some of those other kickers and stuff. But that's interesting. When you're going through like your builds and stuff, Simon, are you using a Saber Sim, and are you kind of doing the same, or you kind of manually go in there and tweak? Like I'll have the Saber Sim and RPS average projections in there, and then I'll look at a couple other things that I like to look at, and then add my own little tweaks to for the projections and whatnot, and then I just kind of run it on the Saber optimizer deal, the normal setting they have for a showdown, and then kind of go in and tweak min and max some guys if I want some more. If a guy didn't give it to me, I'll kind of adjust things in step 3 or whatnot. What's your typical process when you're building your scripts?
I like to set a lot of rules, especially on a slate like this. Like, I don't want to use more than 2 wide receivers from either team. Like in this slate, like I wouldn't want to use more than 2 wide receivers from Tampa Bay. I wouldn't want to use more than 2 wide receivers from Seattle. I don't mind using like 3 wide receivers total or whatever, but just from one team, I don't want to have more than 2 in this particular slate. I'd want to have one tight end, but I don't want to have more than 1 tight end per team. Like, so okay. I don't want to have more than 1 tight end from Seattle, for instance, right? Like, but I wouldn't mind having Otten and Fant in the same lineup and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I set a bunch of rules like that. And then, if I feel like my lineup, my optimizer is forcing in like more expensive guys as opposed to leaving money on the table, then I'll condense my rules even more, or like make a rule to like leave a few thousand on the table or something like that. But yeah, I do think that in order to like try to get the lineups that I want, like the just the ownerships that I want when I do my builds, I basically will just either like raise or lower point projections like a lot higher. I typically don't like, and this is something Big T taught me, like with optimizers, like as opposed to setting like 25% like max limits and stuff like that, he likes to just kind of adjust the projections until you get like that ownership that you're happy with. So that's kind of the route that I typically will go. I'll adjust the point projection either up significantly or down significantly, depending on like if it's an expensive player like who's projected for 16 points, but I don't think that he's going to be in the optimal. Like I'll lower him maybe to 9 points, right? Because if he scores 9 points, maybe he still gets in the optimal, like, so I'll just lower him to 9 points. And if he lands in my optimal, then shit, like it gives me a much lower bar, like to climb to get this guy in my optimal, like when I have him projected for 9 points as opposed to 16.
Yeah, I think that's something that I'll do, like with a Brady here, and Brady and Fernandez. I'll just set their projections low enough, and then not X them out. But I don't think they're going to hit any builds with the projection. I'll get them. But like for captain ownership, for like playing quarterbacks in the captain, are you always doing more specifically like pass catching quarterbacks, not like a Lamar Jackson or something, but like with like Geno Smith? If I play him in captain, I think I want 2 pass catchers with him. At least if I'm playing him in the captain in this spot. Is that something you do as well?
Yeah, I would put Geno in. I'd make sure I have 2 pass catchers with him. Yeah. Just because, like you said, he's not exactly like a running quarterback. But I do think that in a lower projected game, a guy like Geno Smith could, he could lock in on a guy like Lockett, get Lockett to about like 16 points. And then maybe Geno is able to move between the 20s enough so that, he throws for, like 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, one to Lockett and maybe 1 to a tight end. And then he runs 1 in. Maybe the tight end doesn't make the optimal, but Geno gets the high raw score and he's in the captain. And then Lockett, ends up being the only wide receiver who is in the optimal with him. I think in a situation like that, like I would want to put the kickers in there too, like the kicker in there too, because if Geno is the captain and Lockett's the only guy that he's been thrown to, but Lockett doesn't outscore Geno, then chances are that either a running back is running in the touchdowns or they're stalling out in the red zone and the kicker is kicking it. So, like in that situation, like maybe the kicker, like is scoring more than the second receiver. You know what I mean? Or we don't think that the running backs are going to do well in this game. And so I think that we want to increase our exposure and increase our projections on the kickers in this game, because I don't think that either team is going to have too much trouble moving the ball, but I do think that they're going to have trouble when they get in the red zone. And I think that in those situations, we want to have a lot higher projections for our kickers and a lot more exposure and potential, a decent amount of double kicker in this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great transition too into these kickers. Like, I think we're both going to be very high on these 2 kickers here. We got Jason Myers and Ryan Suck up here. I mean, Jason Myers is just, when you look at Jason Myers' game log, I mean, that's just what you want to see for a kicker in Showdown. I mean, he's got a 16-point game in there. He's got tons of games over 10 points. So I think he's a guy that I might even set a projection of 10 on him in this game, which I rarely do for like a kicker, but I think I may set him up like a 10. I think playing these kickers in the captain spot is definitely optimal too. So if we get him to get 16, and then that's going to be 24 for a captain spot. I mean, that could be the absolute nuts. And then you could jam in the rest of those studs, or you can get Geno, a couple pass catchers, Godwin, or something like that. I think that's definitely in play for this slate. Ryan Suck up there too. He's been absolutely on fire too, as this Tampa Bay offense has been getting inside scoring position some, but they stall out a lot. So last 3-4 games, he's had 12, 10, and 14 in 3 of those last 4 games. So I think Suckup's definitely in play too. I know you're high on these kickers in this game too. So do you have anything more to say about these kickers?
Yeah, I mean, Myers scored 16 points just a couple weeks ago against the Chargers. Mm-hmm. So he's definitely in that range of outcomes. And, you know, like, I mean, if there's going to be a kicker captain, like this is a good week to happen, because we think that the offense is going to be able to move the ball. They're not going to maybe necessarily like score that often, but they'll be getting in that kicking range. So I could totally see multiple like 50-yard, 40-yard field goals in this game on either side. So, you know, I would not be surprised if this is one of those slates where we get a kicker captain, and like the Germany crowd is going to be like overly excited about seeing kickers over there. Like, but I do think that I did hear another thing from Warren Sharp in that same blurb that I saw where he was talking about the Akeem Hicks thing. He was also saying that over in Germany, there's a big contingency of Seahawks fans that are supposedly going to be there. So, you know, like we could see the Seahawks in a home environment, even though I think it's like Tampa Bay's like the home team on this one.
Yeah,
I think
theoretically,
like, yeah. So like there might be more Seahawks fans in the crowd than Tampa Bay fans, and so you add that to the misery for Tampa Bay. You know, like you can totally see. Seattle pulling something off, and I think it's going to come down to a field goal as the winner, maybe on the final drive of the game. I don't know if there are going to be any kneel downs to end the game. I think it's probably going to come down to the wire in this one, and I do think that kickers are going to play a major role in the outcome.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm going to be very overweight on these two kickers. And when it comes to the defenses here in this next deal, I think I'm only going to play Seattle's defense. I think I'm going to be off of the Tampa Bay defense. 4,400 is too much for me here, as I'd rather play the kickers or a couple of these guys priced cheaper than them. But the Seattle defense is only 3,600, and I can get on board with that. I think they have quite a range of outcome to score, 7 to 10 points in this game. Possibly could get a pick 6 on Dusty Brady here in this situation. So I think I'm going to be on Seattle defense more so than Tampa Bay. I'm just going to fade Tampa Bay defense at that price tag, guys. I'd rather play the kickers. I'd rather play Dustley. I'd rather play Homer. I'd rather play some of these other guys. So I think I'm going to be off of Tampa Bay. What are you doing with these defenses for this game?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I do see that Seattle had a 14. The Cardinals scored 14 points against Seattle. Their defense scored 14 points against Seattle a few weeks ago. But like that's the highest. And I think Seattle will probably be more conservative in this game. I think there's going to be more short passes to Lockett and the tight ends. I don't think that the run game will get going too well in this, but the running backs could be involved in the passing game more. So I think it's going to be a lot of short dump offs, and I think they're going to be pretty conservative. And I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to be able to generate enough points to kind of take advantage of that. But it might be it's probably one of those same things, like as opposed to if I lower the projections significantly and they still pop up, then it is what it is. But I will have the tight ends that you mentioned and Rashad White and the kickers and everyone elevated in projections. So they probably would not make it into my lineup. If I ran a build, like let's say I ran 150 lineups and I had Tampa Bay's defense and then lowered their projection significantly, and then they ended up popping up in like 1 or 2 lineups, and I just X them out, because at that point, like I don't want, I'd rather have, like 2 more lineups of Noah Fant or something like that, as opposed to like wasting it on like just sprinkling in 2 lineups of the Tampa Bay defense. I'd rather have it more condensed than that. But yeah, I know some people who would probably just leave the defense in at that point, even if they're only showing up in like 2 out of 150.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've pretty much hit on all the position groups pretty good there. I mean, we can kind of touch on our favorite captains now, if you want to hit on that. I think my favorite captain in this game is going to be Tyler Lockett from a skill position player standpoint, and then I'm going to go with my guy Jason Myers there for the kickers on the captain spot there. I'll probably have some Geno Smith at captain. I might play a little Mike Evans in captain just because he has that big play upside where he's seen all the targets too. He has had a couple of games earlier where he scored some pretty big games. Versus the Chiefs, he had 2 touchdown catches and 100 yards. So I think if he puts up 30 or something, I think it's kind of rare, but I'll have some Mike Evans in captain. Looking down here more, I think it's going to be a pretty small captain pool for me for this game, though. Probably have some Lockett, probably have some Metcalf, some Evans, and then maybe both the kickers will make the captain pool for me. What's making the captain pool for you in this matchup?
So right now, without having like a good read on ownership, if I saw that Mike Evans was going to be 5%, then I would be like super overweight on Mike Evans as a captain. And I would build my game scripts around like what scenarios would happen for Mike Evans to be captain. But right now I like Lockett a lot, and I kind of like Rachaad White. I don't know what his captain ownership is going to be. Like if
I bet it'll be under 5%.
Yeah, like right now he feels pretty sneaky for you and I, but like for all we know, he could end up being like 10% owned. Be like, what the hell? How the hell did that happen? Like type of thing. I haven't really seen enough. Like we're really the only ones who might be doing a show on this that I know of. I haven't like looked around to see if there's any other shows covering this game, but. So I don't know how much content is talking up these players, but if there's a lot of content that's talking up Rachaad White, then maybe he gets an elevated captain ownership. But I do know that one of the beat writers out in Tampa Bay put out an article this past week. I can't remember Almond or something or something like that, and he put out a article talking up how they're phasing Lenny out of the offense. And I think, like there's probably a lot of local chatter about Leonard Fournette being phased out of the offense in favor of Rachaad White. I don't know how big it is on a national scale, but if people start talking up that angle more and more, then I could see Rachaad White getting steam as a captain. But if he stays under 5%, I think he could end up being a pretty good captain. Although I don't think that you need the value in captain this week, so I might just stick with guys like Lockett and Evans and maybe Godwin, depending on what his captain ownership is. But I have a feeling that DK Metcalf will be lower than Godwin. If Godwin ends up being one of the highest owned captains, then I'm going to fade him at captain just because, like we were talking about, he gets a ton of targets. He has an ability to catch 6-7 catches for 50 freaking yards. And if he doesn't get a touchdown, then, you've just invested in a 15% owned captain that didn't get you shit. And if he did end up as the highest scoring raw points, maybe Tyler Lockett scores 1 point less than him and is half the ownership or a third of the ownership or something like that. So pay attention to ownership when you're deciding on these captains. Pick the guys who are under 10% generally, unless it's like a really obvious captain, and then you can try to get your lineup different somewhere else. But yeah, in general, I think with a slate like this, I'm looking at the wide receivers, and I'm looking to see which one of because we got a lot of stud wide receivers, and I'm looking to see which of them are going to be the lowest owned and how I can build a game script around them being a captain.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to like roster utilization, is there like any specific? Do you specifically try and get like 3 3s, 4 2s, or 5 1s, or you just kind of let the projections just kind of pan out whatever you get, or are you going in there like in Saber? I know there's options where you can go there and manually adjust how many of each scenarios you want. Is that something you do, or you just kind of let the dominoes fall where they fall?
So I try to adjust my projections to get like a certain, like a certain distribution. Like right now, like the first optimization that I ran, like without adjusting anything, I was seeing a lot of 4-2 Bucks. So people are putting in a lot of Bucks for some reason. I don't know why. So it's really easy for me to get off of that and go 4-2 Seattle because I like Seattle better, like just as a whole. So like to me, that's an easy like transition. You know, like if I bump up my players and I'm still getting 4-2 Bucks, then I'm going to put a rule. You know, like I want at least 3 Seahawks in every lineup or something like that. You know, I'd prefer 4-2 Seahawks builds, but I don't mind, you know, like 3-3 builds either. Like just as long as I'm not getting a majority Bucks and, you know, like less of the Seahawks. Because I do think that the common build for this game might be, you know, 4 Bucks or 3 Bucks.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm right there with you. If the majority of the people are going to be jamming 4-2 Tampas, I'm going to be definitely different than the field. So hopefully that kind of holds. Once again, hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already. It definitely helps bring this free content to you for free of charge. It really helps us out a lot, and it helps us keep delivering this stuff for you. If you're watching this before the Saturday night, we have a Saturday night NFL Million Maker Roundtable show Saturday night, and then Sunday we've got 3 shows leading up to NFL Lock with the Off the Chalk, the Morning Wood, and then Up to Lock show. So make sure to tune into all of those. 2 of them will be free. The Up to Lock show is a premium show, so if you want to join the movement with us, use promo code RPS Heater 25. That'll be 25% off your first month. I believe that code is still active, so give that a shot and join the movement. I mean, we've been crushing all sports. NBA's in full swing now. We've got college football going on right now as we record this Saturday early afternoon. NFL, everything else. We've got MMA. There's a big card going MMA today too, Saturday. I think it's locks at 6:30 Eastern, so that's going to be huge for us. Title's got that under wraps. Title in DC did a show earlier on that as well, so check that out if you have time. But I think that's pretty much going to wrap us up here. Any final thoughts to you here, Simon, on this show?
Yeah, just to add to your premium thoughts, our guys are the best showdown team in the industry as well, and we do a ton of premium showdown content. You get guys like Big T and JSU giving their entire player pools to people for showdown, and Tampa does an attack plan. Actually, like JSU, I think he does core plays, but Big T will give you his entire player pool, and Tampa pretty much gives you his entire player pool and his attack plan too. But we have a bunch of guys like JSU, Hoop, Mangone, I believe, Phallic, like all these.
I think
dudes.
We've got 8 core plays on site.
Yeah.
Showdown.
And Snyder, you do core plays too, right?
I've got a core up there for DK and FD. Yeah, we've got, I think, 8 total people have cores on there, so you get all the top players on our whole rosters giving out their core plays for the site. Yeah,
and that will make your lineup building much more easy to do, especially if you don't have time to go out and do all the research, read about 50 articles. And we all know with Showdown, those articles aren't coming out until day of. So it's really hard to get all that research in, and especially if you got a day job, like you're trying to read where you can and try to get as much information as you can and try to look at all the data and everything like that. Sometimes you just can't do it. And when you use our core plays and you use our player pools and stuff like that, it just makes everything so much easier. That's why we're doing this show on Saturday today. Like we just randomly put this show together just because, Snyder and I are into Showdown, and I knew that I was going to be doing a ton of research on this game. So I was like, fuck it, let's just do a show, and I know Snyder's already into the game too, so it'd be an easy thing to put together. So we think that Our content will help you become a better Showdown player in general. We got Big T on Showdown for free on Monday with JT Hayes, and they usually bring on a special guest. We've had Whistles Go Woo, who's one of the best DFS players in the industry. We've had Chris Randone, who's made a few good calls lately on that show, and we've had Cody over from ETR. He was on it the other day, and Brick came on as a special guest a few weeks ago too. So we have all sorts of great Showdown players that show up on that show. And then we got the Thursday show, which is premium, but we also have a Sunday night show, which is another free one. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. As we were talking about before, it's down by Snyder's lower right corner, or I guess it'd be lower right corner, down over that way. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the like button on your way out. And let's ship it on Sunday morning, dude. Before we even put in our main slate lineups.
Absolutely. I mean, what's better than shipping some slate early, right before the big main slate starts? So let's start this Sunday out with a bang. There, I think me and Simon are on the same pathway. It sounds like so. Hopefully, we see you all in the winner's circle with us. But I think that's going to do us for this show. Make sure and hit the like and subscribe on your way out, as Simon mentioned. But I think that's going to do it for us here. Let's all run pure tomorrow. For Simon, this is Snyder. I think we're out.